Hi, I'm Steve Howard, White's Electronics. I'd like to introduce you to the Spectrum XLT test team.
Hi, my name's Keith Zorger with White's of Mid-Atlantic.
Hi, I'm Randy Smith, Treasure Electronics.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Sierra, Whites of California.
We're here today to talk about White's new top-of-the-line Spectrum XLT. Many of you may be familiar with White's past Eagle and Spectrum models. Keith, what's different about the Spectrum XLT?
Steve, we have a metal detector here that has major reductions in both size and weight. It's an extremely well-balanced, friendly, easy-to-use metal detector. Jimmy, what do you like about the machine?
My favorite thing about the new XLT is the increase in size of 50% on the display. That means all the information on the display is thicker and taller and easier for me to read at arm's length, particularly with my bifocals. In addition, instead of having to read a word for the probable target, such as nickel or nail or pull tab, it has a graphic or icon there, so that in an instant I can get an idea of what my probable target is. Randy, what do you think about
I like the new software that they put into this machine versus the old one. The old Spectrum was easy, this is even easier. They've took all of the options and all the adjustments and linked them together into a menu that you can just push the down button and scroll to every adjustment on this metal detector. It's extremely easy. They've also made some improvements to the battery life on the detector. They've got it to where it runs longer on a battery pack, and the battery pack is smaller. It runs on 8 AA's. There's just some good stuff in this metal detector.
Sounds like you guys like the changes we've made to the Spectrum. Mark Rowan, the Spectrum XLT design engineer, is here today. Let's go talk to him about some of the technical aspects of this instrument.
Great.
Good idea.
Hi, Mark. All right.
Mark, how are you?
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
You good? Okay. Mark, we've had a chance to use our Spectrum XLTs and we're very impressed. Could you tell us what's new with the electronics?
The display itself, Keith, is a true graphics display, which means there's almost no limit to what sort of things we can show now. We've got 128 pixels horizontally, 64 pixels vertically. And so we're using that to draw the pictures of the targets, the icons as we call them. The numbers and the text have been scaled upwards so that the characters are bigger, bolder, and easier to read. I think anyone can read them at arm's length, even in marginal light conditions. Mm-hmm. So that's been, I think, a real significant improvement. The microprocessors on board, there's 2 of them, are more powerful than what we used in the past, running at twice the clock speed. We've got almost a 100% increase in the ROM capacity, so there's a lot more program in there to run.
Mark, how was you able to get so much more in such a significantly smaller package?
Well, we've used a lot more highly integrated components. There are things available now where you get a lot more electronic functionality integrated onto a single IC. There's a real key part in here, just as an example. It's called a dual D to A converter that was developed for digital audio applications, CD players and digital audio tape and this sort of thing. And it replaces about 7 or 8 ICs that we used to have to build in separately. And a couple of years ago, those things were either not available or they were just exorbitantly expensive. But nowadays, it's become practical to start designing that sort of thing into a portable metal detector.
Mark, how were you able to improve the battery life, and there seems to be significant improvement in battery life, and still process all the extra information that you're able to do on this?
Some of the more modern components are just more efficient. They'll do the same job on less power. Oh. And it's really a question of efficiency. We haven't given anything up in terms of detecting power or depth sensitivity. It's just a matter of making use of the power that's available and not being wasteful about it, basically.
Mark, the new display in the Spectrum XLT has a lot of new features for us, but the ability to change the viewing angle is of particular interest. Can you explain that?
Yeah, all LCDs, as I'm sure you've noticed, in bright sunshine or at high temperatures, they tend to get dark. And this has been one of the complaints on some of our earlier models. People talk about how in the desert or on a warm day in direct sunshine, the display will go dark. You can access that feature and you can control that now. And you can turn that viewing angle down so even on a very hot day, it'll be quite legible. The other side of the coin is that in very cold environments, the display will tend to get very light and it'll tend to get very sluggish. So you can make that adjustment the other way, and it's got a lot of range. It goes, I think, 1 to 50 or 0 to 50. You can take it up the other way, and you can darken it up when you want to, which also will speed up the response time somewhat. Well, you guys have been using this thing for a couple days now. Did you find anything good?
Yeah.
You bet
Yeah,
we did.
we went to an old lot over here where they took out some buildings, and I got some old Oregon trade tokens. I got a mercury dime. Keith, you got a barber dime, didn't you?
Got a real nice barber dime, some trade tokens, a little silver earring. I know Jimmy pulled up some tokens.
Did a good job.
We were impressed.
Well, what can I say?
We've moved to this grove of trees on the campus of Oregon State University to go through our familiarization of the Spectrum XLT assembly and basic use. Keith, do you have any tips as far as assembling the Spectrum?
We sure do, Steve. It's very simple, but what's obvious in the beginning is that you have a smaller lower rod, which telescopes into a slightly larger upper rod. This is secured with a cam lock in the center, which will make that a truly one-piece operation. You can select various lengths by the holes in the upper rod for the pin from the lower rod to fit in too. As you continue back the rod, you'll see you have another cam lock where the rod connects to the metal detector itself. Continuing back the rod, we have an adjustable arm cup with 3 slots for individual user preference. Randy, would you show us how you wrap the rod there and why you do it?
Sure. You want to start with the coil wire over the top of the rod and not under the rod. The reason for that is if you go under the rod and you're hunting and you happen to put pressure on the front of the loop, it's going to tighten it up and possibly do damage to the connector there. So you want to always make sure and go over the top of the lower fiber rod with the cable. You also want to leave yourself a little bit of slack there so that in case that movement of the loop does occur, that it doesn't damage the cable connector. So you start by leaving yourself a little bit of a slack and then just work it right around like that right there. Just twirling the detector all the way up. And you get to the other end, leave yourself enough slack so that you can reach the connector here and plug in. You also want to make sure that your loop bolts are tight and secure. You don't want your loop moving on you while you're detecting because that can cause some false signaling to occur. So you want a good connection here, good rigid connection on your loop. Leave slack in the cable, go over the top when you start, work your way all the way back, leave yourself some slack at the back to make the connection. Jimmy, you've got some ideas for us on batteries. What about that?
Yeah, I'd like to explain the new battery pack that White's has designed. We've all been used to the drop-in battery pack. White's has been famous for that drop-in pack. It's 4 C cells. Well, now, because of the small size of this detector, the small package size, we've designed a battery system which incorporates 8 AA batteries, thinner and longer and lighter, to be able to be dropped in as well. Notice on the bottom here, there's a silver nipple, and that's where you charge this NiCad pack. Next to it is a little tab that stops the battery pack from going too far into the carrying case, so that we will drop it in and lock it down with a little door with the 2 tabs being on the bottom of the detector now. We're used to having them on the side. Now, in case you don't charge your batteries soon enough, or you get it there with a half a set of NiCads and your batteries run out while you're hunting. And by the way, we have extended battery life on this, a good deal longer than the last Spectrum. We have a package which looks identical in every respect except for the absence of that little charging nipple. That's so you couldn't charge this one and you wouldn't want to. There are alkalines in there. Now the little tab here which stops the pack from going too far in the case is used as a little handle, lift up and pull back, and we expose 8 AA batteries. Those 8 AA batteries will take the place and operate your detector just as the NiCad will. Again, we put the contacts, the little silver contacts, always on the bottom as you're dropping it in. Couldn't put it in that way, can't make a mistake. Turn it around, drops right in. Close the door,